for everyone who is joining us just now, I let a couple other people join in the Zoom. Welcome to SciStarter Live. This is our weekly webinar series where we talk about a different topic. In this case, we're talking about moths. So we are just at the end of Moth Week 2024. It's all over for this year anyway, although you can moth anytime, as we'll talk about later. And we're going to celebrate nature's mostly nocturnal wonders with our guests here. So I'm going to go ahead and push us forward by actually dropping my screen share for a moment here. I'd love it if we could go through introductions with our guests here. Elena, Dr. Elena, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elena Tartaglia. I'm one of Moth Week's co-founders, and I studied moths for my dissertation a long time ago. And I'm currently a researcher at Rutgers University, and our lab group focuses on plant invasions in urban ecosystems and urban settings. And I'm also currently working on a moth-related project looking at moth and butterfly caterpillar herbivory, which is plant eating on native and non-native trees in an urban forest.
That is legitimately my favorite thing about caterpillars is that they are food tubes. So
Very hungry caterpillar. I say the very hungry caterpillar is a true story.
yes,
Not fiction.
yes, it is. Lidi, can you introduce yourself for us?
Hi, everyone. I'm Liti Haramati. I'm in New Jersey. I'm a researcher at Rutgers University. My day job is actually in marine science. But at night I go mothing. And we started the National Moth Week as events at our local parks. That's where Elena and I actually met. And 2012 was the first National Moth Week, and we'll tell you more later.
Awesome. So you're just an enthusiast from the get-go? Did you ever cross paths with moth in like academia, or is it just marine science and then moths are just super cool?
As a grad student, I was a teaching assistant in the entomology class.
Oh, okay.
And I also I worked with ecological study of mosquitoes and other aquatic insects.
Excellent. Okay, cool. All right. So there's like some crossover that like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's always going to be crossover. And Andrea, can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, I'm Andrea Schneider, and I'm a citizen scientist. So I just love insects and all things science and nature. And this is kind of like the example of, what SciStarter is trying to do. I don't even remember when I got involved in Moth Week. Like, I know it was 2014, but I have no idea how I found out. I might have been doing some kind of like searching or something like that, but I was like totally taken by it. And yeah, it's been years now, and it's surprising how quick that's gone. But I love being a part of the project now and spreading all that out, and getting everybody involved in citizen science. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been over a decade. It's kind of crazy to me to think that it's been since 2012.
Yeah.
2012, did not know that this was a thing. So
well, I work with Moth Week now as the Canada country coordinator, and I do run the social medias. That's me behind all the posts.
Amazing. Yeah. And I apologize. It's Andrea?
Andrea, yeah.
I'm sorry. I totally mispronounced your name.
That's okay.
Should have asked. All right. Thank you, you three, for introducing yourselves. I'm going to share my screen again with a very wonderful picture from recent past on SciStarter social media, speaking of. If anyone has seen Silence of the Lambs in this group, cool. I haven't, technically, just know enough about it. But it features a lovely moth that we actually did a short TikTok video about. So if any of you have TikTok, feel free to look up scistarter.org on there and see the whole video. But it brought up a question of, do our guests know what moth this is and anything about it and any tidbits about it? So I'm going to turn it over to Elena, I think, right? To see, what do we know about this? It's a real moth? That's what
it is a real moth. So there's actually 3 species, all in the genus Acherontia. that are considered to be this is called a death's head hawk moth. It's a kind of a grim name because of the skull. Like it also kind of looks like a stormtrooper a little bit in that picture too.
Yeah.
So they are sphingidae or hawk moths. So they tend to be large. This particular group of species is in not in the US, it's in Europe and Africa, and I think part of Asia, but people raise them as pets here.
Oh.
So that's what's on the poster. I like to say, and when I give a talk, I like to say it's got a little stage makeup on. They're not that brightly colored, but who wouldn't wear makeup for a poster of a movie? But yeah, it's a real species or a group of several species in the genus.
I think when I looked this up, because I did not realize, I don't know why I hadn't thought about this with the Silence of the Lambs poster, because I've seen this poster a million times, but apparently they did even more makeup with the design of it, because it's apparently a bunch of ladies in weird formation across it too, so they embellished the skull a bit to make it even more creepy.
I've heard, and I haven't actually looked this up, that it's something, maybe a Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't think it's a painting, but yeah, that it is women on there if you zoom in really close.
Which I unfortunately cannot do, but on your screens you might be able to, actually. I'm not sure. But on mine it won't let me because I'm in the middle of a slide deck, sadly. But yeah, if you're curious about that, feel free to read up on it later if anyone's...
Yeah, so this is sort of, I like to talk about how moths get a bad reputation, and this contributes to it because Silence of the Lambs is sort of regarded as one of the scariest movies of all time, right? And so this is the impression that people have of moths.
Right, yeah, which is crazy because I don't remember if moths, I mean, I didn't see it, so I don't know how much moths actually come up, probably not very often, but yeah, it's not a very nice, I mean, it's a cool moth, but maybe not a very nice representation of it over time. People get freaked out. Well, let's unfreak people out and see how people feel about moths to begin with now. So if you are on with us right now, a poll will drop down shortly here, assuming Roland's connectivity came back, hopefully. Yay. Okay, awesome. So we want to know if you are here because you did participate or if you've never heard of this and you just like the idea of moths and are a fan. So if you participated this year, you're saying yes. If you did not, you say no, and then we'll know. Wow, it's pretty evenly spread. Okay, I'll wait a couple more seconds. And push us forward by actually dropping my screen share. 3 more seconds. I'd love it if we could go through. Oops. Lady, sorry, I muted you for a second because I could hear your background. Awesome. Okay, so most of you said yes. Awesome. Okay, so I'm really excited to hear your experiences then when we get to that point to know what you did. So prepare your fingers for typing. So I'm gonna actually turn it over to Lady, who I muted. So I'm gonna unmute you or ask to unmute to tell us about what is Moth Week and what are the goals. Why are we here every year to do this? Oh, did I mess you up?
Yep, we're good. I think
Okay.
we're good. So I'll go back to what I said before. We started with Moth Nights in our local community. We're in central New Jersey, and we set up what we call light traps, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it in a bit. And we just invited people from the community to come see what flies at night. And it was a great success. People just love to see the moths and sometimes other insects, and realizing that moths are not little brown, boring things that eat our clothes, but some of them are big and beautiful and colorful. And we talked about the ecological importance as pollinators, as food for other species. And at some point, Dave Moskowitz, who started the Moth Nights in our town, and I talked about making it bigger. We said, let's have one night in all of New Jersey, Moth Nights all over New Jersey. And Dave said, that's not good enough. Let's do it all over the country. And I said, well, if doing it all over the country, let's do it all over the world because,
why not?
Why not? So that's how the idea came up, and really the whole project has 2 goals, and one of them is increase awareness of people to what's in their backyard. So we have all this amazing ecosystem, and we have so many species, and they're so important. But when it comes to moths, we don't know anything about them because most of them fly at night. So that's one thing. The other goal of the project is to collect information, or as we call it, data, about moth distribution and see what species, what groups fly and live in different places. And as we know, the world is changing. And with the changing in the world, climate, pollution, all the things we hear about, that changes the distribution of organisms, including moths. And so people who participate in National Moth Week are encouraged to actually submit pictures to several partner sites. And then scientists can go in and actually dig the information and figure out if there are changes in distributions. And I will say that quite recently, we heard 2 examples of citizen scientists who found moth species in places that they haven't been seen before. So who knows, maybe citizen scientists will discover new species, change the distribution map. So that's what we're here for.
Excellent. Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many stories of people on like iNaturalist, which is every species, not just Lepidoptera and whatnot, where they'll find something that they did not know existed anymore. Like there was a weasel, so I'm hopeful that that'll happen for a moth. Maybe we'll find one of the death hawk ones in the U.S. and we'll in nature. Although if they have them as pets here, I'm surprised that none have escaped.
I think they probably have, but maybe I'm not sure of like what types of temperatures they exist at, or I know that their host plant is potato family, so there would be stuff that they could eat here.
Oh yeah, and then Mothra, of course, could show up out of nowhere.
At any time.
Hope so. It'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Would that be fun? I don't know. I would be terrified.
Move over, mercury vapor.
I'm trying to think of the caterpillar version of Mothra. Was that ever a thing? Caterpillar Mothra? Or is it only a moth? Anyone know?
I host an event some years, maybe every other, where we do mothing, and at the same time as the black light's running, Godzilla versus Mothra is playing on an outdoor projector. But I'm usually more interested in the mothing sheet, so I haven't paid that much attention to the movie.
Oh my gosh.
But Mothra is generally I would say good guy. Mothra is generally there to defeat Godzilla, so Mothra is a force of good.
All right, so I'd be excited, but also terrified of potential damage to the world based on that. All right, so what happened this year? What do we know so far this year from everyone participating?
So we had participants in over 50 countries. And I will add that over the 13 years we've been doing this, we had participants from 125 countries. I actually counted it this morning. I added the countries from this year, which is more countries that participated in the last Winter Olympics. I like to note that. And it's about 2/3 of the world countries. So that's very exciting. If you look at the map on iNaturalist, where people are posting from or submitting pictures from, there's still some areas of the world that are lack in knowledge because there are not very many submissions, and we hope to change that. There are close to 190,000 submissions on iNaturalist just for Moth Week, which is amazing. About 30,000 people submitted moth observations this last week.
For iNaturalist, I always like to say that for Moth Week, if you submit a moth observation, it's automatically pulled into our project. You don't have to add to project. So don't worry that if you were like, oh, I didn't put it in the project, it's in, we have it, we took it.
Without you knowing. Yeah. Do you have the link for that project by chance on through iNaturalist that you can drop in the chat for us?
I will in a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see what kind of
Yeah.
fun pictures have come about
Actually,
from
yeah,
people
it's very
participating.
interesting to look at the numbers and to look at the map and to
Yeah.
look at the pictures of moths, of course. We have a Flickr group with I think it's over 115,000 photos by now. And I'll mention this again, Flickr is one of those sites where actually new species have been discovered in the past. So it's a great resource for scientists.
Definitely.
For
Not something I was aware of either at first.
So we really encourage participants to register on our website, and we call it a mothing event, but it can really be just one person in their own backyard.
Oh, sure.
And this is we like to refer to that as a private event, and public event are of course open to the public, and people can come and participate, and those take place in parks, in nature centers, in cities, in the suburbs, everywhere.
Everywhere. Do you ever give advice for people who are trying to do them in public parks and such? I'm curious because I'm like, I don't know if there's any like permitting issues with having a moth night, if you've run into that before, but do you support people through Moth Week with any of that type of information?
I mean, people email us. People are free to email us. Of course, we don't know the laws and rules where everyone is, and it can be challenging to do events at night to get permission to do those things. Generally, because I've done a lot of stuff at night where I'm like, I need access to your place at night. You have to ask permission. It's how people say it's better to ask forgiveness and permission. That's not the case here. Ask permission, and if people say no, you can't, then find somewhere else. But always, of course, a lot of parks, at least in my area, are open, dawn to dusk. But getting in touch with a park manager, hey, we'd like to host an event, can go a long way to getting a yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So always be careful and always ask permission if you want to be somewhere at night.
Right.
I never heard of anyone not given permission, and I know that we had events at the University Botanical Gardens that are officially closed at night. I actually attended an event last week, which was a movie screening and a light trap in a park in Brooklyn.
Nice.
So I like Elena said, just permits are given.
Yeah. And our country coordinator, how do people usually do the events out in Canada? Is that something you work with them to do? Or help them organize these events?
I try.
Very spread out.
This kind of goes into a bigger issue with trying to get everyone involved with the official project, because there are Moth Week projects going on all over Canada that may not be seen because Moth Week had become so big, and that it's not registered on our map as an official. So I'm trying to get everybody kind of knowing who I am, and then kind of communicating and figuring that out. But yes, it's a matter of, we have like conservation areas. If you talk to any of them, the organizations, they will allow you to go in the evenings. There's also land trust. So my main event this year was with a local land trust, which was excellent because that helps kind of work the land trust and the project together, working with, exposure to whomever gets exposed to social media, stuff like that. But I'm really trying to encourage people as well just to go into their backyards, right? And that's how I always did it. This was my first one that, well, I shouldn't say that. I had, when I was an outdoor educator and working with camps, I actually got the kids all involved because they love that. It's like Pokemon. You're finding something really neat, right? And they get to stay up late and like, look, I mean, some people don't like things flying around their head, but then you can encourage caterpillars during the day, right? So there's all kinds of things to get people involved, definitely. So I'm just hoping, more people will actually do the official events.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Eventually we'll get, it's hard to count all of them. They might be doing these things and then we don't really know. We don't end up finding out. We kind of edged into this question already of who these people are, but I'm curious to know if anyone has more to add about who usually participates in this? Why do they? How do we connect with the public here? And for anyone who's listening in, if you did participate in a Moth Week event, feel free to share in the chat where you came into play. Like, why does this matter to you to participate? Or if you lead events, why do you do that and for who? Yeah, any thoughts on like who we're connecting with in this case?
So in our town, and like I said, we've been doing it for at least 15 years. It's a sort of a usual pattern. So first come the families with young kids. And we actually, in our events, we let the kids paint the trees with moth bait. And then
Ooh.
we walk in, yeah, it's a mixture of sweet stuff and alcohol.
Ew.
Oh,
So we tell the kids, the kids ask what's in it, and we say, oh, there's, grape juice, and they smile, and there's lots of sugar, and they smile, and then we say beer, and they go, ooh. And then there's families with a little bit older kids, and then all the kids, the families disappear, and late into the night stay the serious adults with their cameras, just, hanging around and waiting for interesting things to fly in. So that's kind of the pattern in our events. I know a lot of people just moth in their backyards. I say mothing is great because unlike birding, you don't need the binoculars and you don't need to chase them. You set up the light, you set up the surface, and you just sit and wait.
I think though we would used to, I still say mothing is the new birding. We'd get at East Brunswick, we get a fair number of birders coming to the moth sheet. Yeah, I think, they're looking for something to do at night, or they've gotten up so early that there's like an overlap, but the moths are still out.
That's so early. I don't know if I could do that, but also that's pretty cool that they would still be around when you wake up in the morning. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, right. Maurice, you wrote in the chat about your event. It was a joint moth night with the city of Chesapeake, at least 50 to 70 people. That is crazy. That's a big group. Did you have like a ton of lights set up for it? I'm curious if everyone had to huddle around one setup. What is the largest event we've seen? Have we seen any like recordings of where the biggest events have been? I don't know if you actually track that information.
I don't know if we gather like number of participants. Speaking from my own experience, having done events in or near like New York City, you get a lot of people at those. I think Leedy and Dave and I, we used to every year have one at the Meadowlands, which is just outside of New York City in New Jersey. And we'd get, I think we'd get maybe 100 people at that. The trade-off is in a very urban area, you don't get quite as, you do get good and interesting moths, but the ones where you get like the most diversity are the ones that 5 people attend in the middle of the woods. So there's a little bit of a trade-off, but I like events with a large number of people because I like giving a talk and I like people coming out and seeing what the sheet looks like. Absolutely. I like giving all events, even if there's only 5 people. I like giving events.
Even if it's a small event, you see more moths. If it's a large event, you get to meet more people who love moths. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are, coming out curious, and I don't like, from my perspective as a citizen science, trying to spread the project that way. I kind of tried to focus it on all of the things that they could do as citizens rather than having like the fancy lights and getting too much into the technical stuff. So I just kind of provided some information that kind of was attractive to them as opposed to getting really heavy into everything and just go look, take some pictures. If you don't have pictures, I brought field guides, trying to test out different lights and what might show up, and then seeing all these random insects show up, and kind of tells them like how many mosquitoes actually came to the that bug zapper light, which the zapper's not on, but
okay, good.
as opposed to mosquitoes, right? So it's just a lot of cool things you can show them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maurice in the chat, who was talking about her Moth Night, I'm actually going to allow you to talk, Maurice, because I want to know how that event went as a facilitator. What was your what was it like? And I think I've allowed you to talk. We'll see. Ooh, we got is that like a tarantula profile picture? It's awesome. I like it. Cool.
Take.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I have no idea why that's there. I do have a nicer moth background, but anyway, that's actually a little jumping spider that was around here. Yeah, we've been doing the Moth Night for 8 years. And so we started in 2016. So this was our 8th annual official, Moth Night. We do it the last Friday of Moth Week. We've never had to cancel, due to weather. So it's always something to think about. And yeah, the past 2 years has been well attended, mainly because the city of Chesapeake, even though I would get my permit, you were talking about permits, through them, it's a city property we're on, but we're on the outskirts of the Dismal Swamp. So it's kind of a great area. A lot of good, moth biodiversity. If you really take your time and count and look at all the little micro moths and stuff, I mean, it's easy, 50 species, different species. And so every year, it just gets bigger. It was the one thing that we could do as a society. A lot of our things got canceled during COVID, but Moth Night we could do, and it was pretty neat to have that happen. And so even then, it didn't slow us down. I'm a little slack on getting my reports in. I was just entering some things today. Do they? I was going to ask Elena, do they go by the date based on when it goes in?
The iNaturalist observations?
Yes.
Yeah, so we just put the
Yeah.
date that it was observed and it'll be counted.
Well, my picture automatically, when
Yeah,
they
it
look
should
at
be
my picture, it automatically takes the date. So that's cool.
Yeah, you're good.
And then
You're
all I
good.
got to do is throw it on the map. So I got to get a bunch of mine in, although I'm hoping that a lot of people would put them in when they do that. And they were asking me, when we were doing the Moth Night, because I gave a presentation even afterwards. And I was like, if there's doubles and triples and quadruples, how do they weed that out? How do they know? I mean, it's probably the same moth in the same place, but
So no, so first of all, I want to say congratulations on this event. It sounds amazing. And
it is
and
really
I
cool.
also, yeah, and when I host, I also like appoint someone to be like, I can't also be doing the iNaturalist data. So our iNaturalist separates out like observations and species, like, so there could be 500 observations of a species. As far as the same individual being photographed, I don't think, I'm not an iNaturalist expert, but I don't think that's separated out, but who cares? So what?
All
I
right.
mean,
Well, they know it's there.
They do. I mean, a lot of,
Just verifies it, I guess.
sure. And a
Yeah.
lot of the data, when I've started looking a little bit into our Moth Week data, and with citizen science data, you can't, it's hard to say anything about abundance because of that factor, right? Where there's multiple people all gathered around the Luna moth, 500 photos. And so it's hard to say anything about abundance. We can say stuff about distribution, and we can say stuff about species richness and
Yeah.
the number of the area. But that's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
all of it's okay.
Yeah. But it's really neat. I'm impressed here because it's all, all ladies. So that's awesome. And some of the most interested people that we get there are younger females that it's just an amazing thing, to watch. And a lot of people will bring their kids. We don't limit it for any age or anything. We'll have several sheets set up in different areas. And it's kind of odd. I mean, I can have, a sheet, 100 yards away that's going to pull in different things that may not show up at other sheets. So it's kind of an interesting place. Some, trends that I look for, last year was like, oh my gosh, we only saw like 3 rosy maple moths and they were pretty tattered. But all the other years they were great. Well, this year they were back in numbers, but it's always neat to see those little trends like that and just be aware of it. Another fun thing for us is, I can tell people, well, you have to stay till at least 10 o'clock because that's when the rosy maple moths show up. And it's almost like clockwork. So, usually by 10:15, somebody's coming up with that picture and it's like, well, there you go. So, so we like things like that. Yeah, species, you're talking about, how the citizen science is used. Some of the trend I'm kind of tracking are like the Anna Carpenter worm moth. More of a southern moth, but I've been seeing them there yearly, and so I got to get more posts on iNaturalist. I use LEPS. I use the LEPS app a lot where I make a post. But I'm kind of doubling up, so I'll post over there and then I'll jump over and do iNaturalist.
Can you share the LEPS app in the chat when you get a chance to? I don't think we have that one listed.
Yeah, it should be LEPS. Yeah, it's just, and it has a moth on it actually. So the app itself.
Oh, just Oh yeah, that's easy. All right,
Yeah.
never mind, I wrote that down.
Yeah, yeah. And so I've been seeing more and more of that moth, kind of make its way up as we track. And there's several photos I need to get in of some of the other carpenter worm moths too that I've seen. That to me, are just it's. And I was telling our group, it's like this citizen science, it's relying on you, and the more you can participate, the better the data is. And so it's for tracking things just like that. So, I mean, it'd be hopeful to find a new species. That'd be awesome. But, you just never know. So,
Yeah, to piggyback off of that and what you said about how 1 year you didn't see as many rosy maple moths, and the value of large long-term data sets is, we know from large long-term insect data sets that a lot of the populations are sort of boom and bust, and just not, them not having a great year 1 year, we don't get alarmed yet. But so that, but if they start going 3, 4, 5 years in a row, or like what happened to the rosy maple moths that come at 10 p.m. in July, on July nights, then we can start saying, hey, is there something going on? And so that's a huge value in these long-term data sets. It's not, sometimes with Moth Week, I say, oh, we did it to glorify moths, but there is, there is to bring awareness to moths, but there is a lot of value in long-term huge data sets, and way more than, and the citizen science part comes in with that, like, relative to the general public, there's a tiny handful of moth researchers, and I don't have money to go everywhere in the world and look at. I barely have enough grant funding money to go look around New Jersey at moths.
So in terms of moving to talking about some of the things that we have discovered, Leedy shared with me one of the highlights, and Maurice, I'm going to send you back to attendees, but if you have more to share later on, I have another section where you can come and talk to us again. So for a highlight, which I don't think this was this year, right, Leedy, but it was a year where we saw a significant, like, oh wait, this is actually research grade, something that we can point out. Do you want to explain this slide and what happened? Oh, I think you're muted again.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So this is actually a story from last year. And this is a guy named Shlomi who's in Israel. And he was leaving his house to go hiking with his kids. And he saw a little moth on the wall, on the outside wall of his house. And he took a quick picture of it with his cell phone. He didn't even have his real camera. And make a long story short, turned out that it's a species of moth that was only seen anywhere in the Middle East once in, I believe it was 1912 or 1913. So it's been seen once, described, and haven't been seen again for 100 years, and was just sitting on at the outside wall of his house. Now, he's a naturalist. He loves moths, and so he took this picture. But that's a great story to tell everyone. Just take those pictures. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Take the pictures and then share it. Make sure it gets shared to others. Yeah, it is crazy.
So really, it says, amazing discoveries. Yes, it's you can have your own amazing discovery.
And they don't have to look like the rosy maple moth for it to be an important discovery either, which is one thing that irks me about butterflies. It's like, yeah, sure, whatever, but like sometimes it's not what matters is the flashiness. Although moths are flashy too, I will concede.
Some are, and if you look carefully, even if something like this that looks just brown and boring, it actually has beautiful patterns on the wings.
Yeah.
Listen, there are plenty of brown butterflies. So
No, exactly.
Plenty of brown butterflies.
They're all beautiful. I'm not going to say they're not beautiful, because they are, but there are plenty of plain brown butterflies.
It might be more exciting to consider it when you think about looking at the patterns and the colors, and then try to figure out what that host plant is, or where they'd be resting, because the camouflage is incredible, and you can usually tell what they'd be on. Like, look at some of the lichen moths; it's pretty obvious, but some of them aren't. So you can try to figure that out too.
That's a really good point. I love that.
Yeah. I just want to add that we just heard of a very similar discovery from England, that somebody found a moth in his backyard, and turned out it's the first time that this moth species was found in that area.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is very exciting. With recent news being about how we can use these, like iNaturalist and eBird, for example, and other forms of tracking animals, like for bird researchers, they recently found that they were able to determine 126 different species that are lost to science because they haven't been observed. Imagine what we could find out if we actually went out and like we're taking pictures of all these moths, and we'd probably find quite a few that are lost to science and different forms of status, so we can motivate more people to go outside and do this too. I'm leaning more and more towards the need for a Moth Night during Citizen Science Month, April. So now I'm thinking very seriously about that.
Let's do it.
We can help. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
We can come give a talk.
Yes, and speaking of the fact that April's not Moth Week, I wanted to make sure we knew it doesn't matter when you do it, right? It can be anytime. Yeah, Maurice, you are so invited. You're invited to Moth anytime. So what are your like best advice for anyone who's just trying to do mothing for the first time, or your best advice for people who moth in general? Ooh. Oh, thank you.
So my advice for anyone starting any hobby is like, start small. You don't have to go buy the most expensive and the most equipment to start with, especially for moths. Just see if you like it. Turn on your light and sit out for a little while and see what comes. And then you can gradually build up to your 175 watt mercury vapor light. But you don't need any of that. You know, just get a sheet that you're not using anymore, you know, when that's got some rips in it, instead of throwing it away. Put that up, see what happens. Actually, you don't even need the sheet if your house is a light color.
And they love brick.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
enjoy
that's true. They
bricks.
like brick too. So, you know, you need nothing fancy to do this, right? There's a very low barrier to entry.
The white sheet situation though, or brick, that like the colors, does it matter? Or like why is that just helpful because it's easier to see them all? Like does it really, they just are attracted to the light?
They need somewhere to land. So a lot of times a sheet, it's like, so in ecology, a lot of ecology is cobbling together your field equipment with the least amount of money possible. And so they need, and making sure it's portable into the field. And so a bed sheet is just really easy to take along with a rope and some clothespins. And so they need somewhere to land, because it's even the best of us cannot really, it's really hard to ID a moth as it's crazily circling a light. So they need somewhere to roost, as we say.
Gotcha. Okay.
And a sheet is just really easy to get and really easy to bring.
Right, yeah. And it's apparently brick also, they just like sitting on any type of material anyway. So it's
it would be interesting to test temperature of the brick. Maybe it's a little warmer to sit on. It's easy for their little tarsi to climb up.
Yeah, it really all depends on the light that they're going to, right?
Yeah.
If they're on brick, it's usually because there's some excellent porch light they like.
Yeah, and this, yeah, a porch light or a flashlight, those are all acceptable. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to maneuver this in my I live in an apartment building, so there's a yard with a dog run, and I'm going to somehow convince them to let me put a sheet up or something.
Another thing that I encourage, another cheap thing to do, is to get a little blacklight flashlight. And I think our other co-founder, Dave Moskowitz, has a publication on going and looking at caterpillars and some other insects will fluoresce. And so you can just crawl around in the apartment plantings, if there's any kind of shrubbery plantings, with your little black light, and you can see fluorescent caterpillars, and you'll see the eye shine about many different insect species. Oftentimes while we're waiting for stuff to come to the moth sheet, because I get everybody jazzed up in my talk, I'm like, and out we go, and it's like, no, there's nothing here yet, so let's all get the flashlights and look around in the foliage while we wait.
That's amazing.
So I just want to add, so one of our team members is Belen Mena, who is a wonderful graphic artist. She actually designed our beautiful logo, and this year she wasn't able to go out to the mountains for Moth Week, and she set up a light on her balcony in I She's in Quito, Ecuador. And she sent some amazing pictures of moths that came to the light just outside her apartment. So anywhere, just have a light on.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm theorizing. I'm like, I just need it. If it's the apartment complex, they might say, hey, yeah, Moth Night. I will lead it. Can come out, bring your UV or black lights to get some
That
black.
would be really cool.
It'll be so fun. Take so many pictures and prepare for the next one. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second here. Do either or any of you three feel like you could name each of these moths? I like quizzing you all. I'm so
What are
evil.
those?
I'm so
Never seen those before.
Are they all moths?
Ugly moths.
They are.
Oh yeah.
I think they are. Yeah. Is this the rosy maple?
No, that's a European species
Oh.
called
The
elephant hawk moth. I love that's like on my bucket list to see. They are so cute. I think it's like Dilephylla elpinor.
Oh man. I need a bingo card of all these different types or all the common names for these in different regions of the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I knew the name of this one at some point and now I don't remember what it is. It's like it's not the glass one,
That's
right?
a Luna.
Luna.
That's a Luna? Okay. Luna, European hawk moth thing.
The elephant hawk moth.
Elephant hawk
weird.
moth.
I love
It's
the
not what
name.
you'd think it should be. It's beautiful.
Exactly, right?
Elephant.
I think elephant, something big and gray and
Yeah.
Yeah. They were feeling fancy. Maybe the person who found it the first time was had the last name Elephant or something.
I don't know. Let's see.
Doesn't look particularly big,
Okay,
yeah.
it says the common name is derived from, oh my God, hold on, I got the Wikipedia pop up. They want me to donate.
Oh no.
Hold on. It says the common name is derived from the caterpillar's resemblance to an elephant trunk.
Oh, it's
What?
the caterpillar. Okay.
Oh, the
Now I'm
oh,
gonna
The larva usually.
now we have to find a picture of the caterpillar.
yeah. I'm gonna search on my other screen while we do this. Or
And,
the last
um,
one I think is more familiar, maybe. Don't know.
The atlas.
The Atlas? Is that what you said?
That's the
Atlas
atlas moth.
Atlas
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Very, very big.
Oh yeah.
Any idea what the middle one is?
The middle
don't
one is the hawk moth.
Oh wait, no,
Oh, on
the
the main page,
picture?
at the center.
Oh, this
Yeah,
one?
center.
That looks like a Bombyx mori, like a silk moth.
Silk
Or like
moth.
the mulberry silk moth, the one that makes silk, but again, that's a
I'm quizzing you without actually knowing the answers
Maybe the
either.
slug?
So sure.
could have you could have given us a quiz ahead of time.
I thought about it, but last time you responded so easily to my only question I gave you, I think, and so I was like, they'll be able to handle it. Oh, wait a second. I'm seeing the elephant hawk moth. I thought this is the one that looked like it looks like a snake.
It does look, the caterpillar does look like a snake.
Yeah, I'll share.
That's the one. Okay.
Ta-da. It's this guy.
That
Unless
viper
I mean,
looking
my
one.
general check
Ah.
might not be. Yeah, I thought it was a different name for that one, but oh well. Yeah, and noted in the chat, Maurice, yeah, lots of moths are named after the caterpillar, as is right, because caterpillars rule, so it makes sense to me, but I'm biased about caterpillars for who knows why. Speaking of, my final question for you all who are listening in on this chat, we want to know, what team are you on after this event? Are you team moth? Are you team butterfly? Are you team life on earth and therefore you cannot choose? Or are you team caterpillar, which is caterpillars reign supreme in my mind? We are curious. How do you feel about all these creatures in the world? As we're in our last couple of minutes of being online together. Haha, I brought someone over into the team caterpillar category. At least one of you. There's still a chance for more of you to join. I love how there's nothing for butterflies yet.
So I just always have to say, butterflies and moths evolutionarily are not really fundamentally different.
Mhm.
Butterflies are moths.
They just
Yeah.
fly during the day.
Right. That bird just flew into my window. That's rude. I need to do something about that sometime. I need to get those stickers that like prevent them from running into your window. I did not realize that would happen. Oh shoot, I was gonna say something about that. Right. It's butterflies are moths, but not all moths are butterflies, right? It's
Well,
that.
just that what we consider to be moths are both evolutionarily older and younger butterflies. There's the group we consider butterflies sort of is nested into the tree of moths, into the evolutionary tree of moths.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's
Cool.
not like the trunk of a tree. This is our Lepidoptera, and this branch is all moths, and this branch is all butterflies. It's not quite so cut and dried.
Right. Okay. Yeah. We like to put things into categories, but we're not always right about those things. We have a message in the chat from John. Thank you. Excited beginner here in Cambridge. This week, John saw oh gosh, I'm going to butcher all these pronunciations. Anavitrinella pampinaria, a common gray moth. Idea dimidiata, the single dotted wave moth. You don't sound like a beginner to me. Amphion floridensis, also called the Nessa sphinx moth. Passifila rectangulata, a green pug moth. Oh, that sounds cool. Idea lubricalis, the glossy black idea. Noctua pronuba, a large yellow underwing. And last one, which is the seventh one, Leptina caradinalis, bent-winged owlet variable snout moth. These are incredible.
Yeah, what a cool list. Great event. And good job, Emma.
We need a proper list like the eBirders have their scavenger hunt where they have lists that they go through. We got to create some for
I like
Lightburst? I've got one.
You
All
have
of
one? Okay, well, we need to review those for sharing with the public. Which, by the way, Team Moth was very much a winner, but Team I Can't Choose is also valid, and Team Caterpillar is just me and one other person. So fair enough, that's fine. Okay, sorry, I cut you off, Lydia. I think
I was just going to mention for everybody who's starting a life list is that I think the estimate now is that there are probably about 500,000 species of moths in the world. Many of them not yet discovered, so should start early for young.
Yeah.
we got quite a ways to go potentially. Do we know how many have been named? How many have been ID'd as this is one of the many?
I thought close to 500,000. I think there's maybe something like 400,000. I don't know. There's a lot. Moth, what we consider to be moth species outnumber butterflies by about 10 to 1.
Wow. That's significant.
And so many moth species they'll have a scientific name, but not a common name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've actually recently chatted with people, who participated in Moth Night in different places in the world. And they started talking about just starting to use a common name that they like and hope that it will catch up.
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want for the common name.
I love that plan. I think Moth Week has enough clout to be able to say, we found this one a bunch and we've decided to name it XYZ, whatever that might be, as the common name, and see if it catches on. I think that would be really cool. So I'll cross my fingers for that. All right, so we are at the end of the hour, so I'm going to pause us here. If you have more thoughts or questions or anything, you're more than welcome to email info@scistarter.org to get your questions answered. I will be dropping a ton of stuff in the follow-up email, including, John, if you don't mind, I will include your list of mods because I think that's cool that you saw this past week, and any other nice tidbits that people dropped into the chat will be included as well. And stay tuned for Moth Night in Citizen Science Month, of course, because now we're going to plan that. That's going to happen. I'll send you all an email, including you attendees, to see if anyone wants to be involved. So thank you so much to our guests here, the three of you. Thank you for coming back, Lydia and Elena, and thank you for joining us this time, Andrea. Happy to meet you, and I'm excited for the future Moth Nights and the future Moth Weeks. It's going to be in existence for a millennia. 1 decade down.
Thanks, Emma.
So many to go. Sorry, Lydia, I didn't mean to scare you.
It's fine.
I was like, oh no. Amazing.
It's a lot of work. I will, if I can just mention, I mean, it's a lot of work to run this project, and we're all volunteers.
Yeah, you might have more volunteers heading your way though after this, maybe. So if you have a need for them,
send me an email. We have a lot of jobs for a lot more people.
When we say jobs, we mean volunteer positions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Is
rewarding.
Is it just Lydia@mothweek.org or National
Moth Week? Yeah.
Nationalmothweek.org.
Yep.
All right, so if you want a volunteer position, not a job, volunteer position, Lydia@nationalmothweek.org. And again, you can always reach out to us too. For any of you who are interested in going to more of these types of events, we're going to be doing a fun one on August 13th, where we're going to be talking about strolling through a cemetery. It's a famous cemetery in Miami that has a project connected to it. That's a good example of projects that you can do in your own hometowns. If you are of interest to that. It's also a project led by one of SciStarter's own, Caroline Nickerson. So it'll be a fun time to catch up with her too. And then if any of you like birds, which apologies for mentioning birds so often in a moth event, but
You like birds too? Nothing
birds
against
are
birds.
cool.
We like those.
They're okay. They're in a different category, so it's okay. And they are migrating soon. So we're going to be talking about fall bird migration. So if you're interested in learning more about the film screening opportunities you can do, the citizen science projects you can participate in, that is at the end of the month on August 27th. It's also the dog days of summer starting in a couple days here. So feel free to check out our dog projects on SciStarter that I should have added on there. We have a ton of resources. So if you ever get stuck, please reach out. We have a podcast. We've got a community that is very responsive to messages on the reviews. We've got an email, we've got project leaders who are responsive, and we want you to find more projects. So get to it, get to it. If you are interested in helping us out to know more about how this program works, feel free to leave us a survey response. It takes like 2 minutes maybe to finish it up. And then otherwise, I'm so grateful that you all are here, and I'm glad to share the space with some excellent people who love moths and love nature and other random things in their lives. So thank you all so much for joining us.